The issue of abortion is back before the Supreme Court.
Today, the justices heard oral arguments on whether Idaho, one of several states that has enacted an abortion ban and can deny women emergency abortions if their lives are not immediately in danger. This is a live look over Capitol Hill right now, where our DC's Raquel Martin joins us with the details on those proceedings.
This is just the second abortion case that the Supreme Court has taken up since overturning Roe v. Wade. The case directly pits the Biden administration's interpretation of a federal health care law against a state's abortion ban. Abortion is healthcare. Abortion and anti-abortion rights advocates,
they think that abortion is just health care when I see it as murder,
gathered outside the Supreme Court Wednesday.
It's unthinkable that we've even gotten to this point.
Inside, the justices weighed if Idaho can prohibit emergency room doctors from providing abortions if a woman's life is not immediately at risk. The Biden administration argued a 1986 federal law known as EMTALA requires emergency room doctors to treat and stabilize patients, and abortions are not excluded.
What Idaho is doing is waiting for women to wait and deteriorate and suffer the lifelong health consequences with no possible upside for the fetus. It just stacks tragedy upon tragedy.
The reality is that our law is very clear.
But Idaho's attorney general says the state's abortion ban already makes exceptions when a woman's life is in danger.
It protects doctors, it protects women, it protects unborn children.
He argues the federal government is out of bounds.
The Biden administration can't manipulate one life-affirming law in favor of another.
Where to draw the line between state law and federal law appeared to leave some justices torn.
We agree that there's a controversy here, but what I'm saying is
No, there's more than a controversy.
Some of the conservative justices questioned how the Idaho law may impact pregnancy care, but stopped short of indicating how they might rule. The Supreme Court is expected to hand down its opinion in June. For now in Washington, Raquel Martin. Back to you.
Raquel, thank you. We are joined now by Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes. And Khalif, you listened to these arguments today online. What is your takeaway?
The biggest thing is, and I've listened to oral arguments for the Supreme Court for a number of times, and throughout the last few years, the arguments have gotten a little bit more intense. Sotomayor is always someone that's quick on her feet, ready to go, but she's never really deep entrenched into it. Today, she was on fire. She cut him off about 15 times. At one point, Alito was like, all right, let me hear what you were going to say. He got his answer, and then she jumped right back on him. And so I can tell you that she was very frustrated with the line of argument that the state of Idaho was attempting. And you got to remember, it's how you characterize your argument. To me, this is not really an abortion question. And that's what they were attempting to say. The question that you should be asking is, does a state law have the opportunity to go over top of federal law? EMTALA, the federal law that she's referencing, she believes would supersede any state law because it's a state law, and a federal law with every other law, if we're not talking about abortion, will be superseded by federal law. That's the argument that she's making. That's the argument that it seemed like a lot of the other liberal justices were attempting to say, how do we get here? How do we reconcile those two things? Because if we're not talking about abortion, this is a no-brainer. That federal law would trump it, and we wouldn't have that conversation. So she wanted him to explain that, and his argument still danced around the interpretation. That's what that controversy comment was when he said, no, we seem to have a controversy on the way we're reading what EMTALA, the federal law, says.
Well, and something else that people were talking about is Justice Coney Barrett and her response and her questions to these arguments, because she was one of the 5 justices who voted to overturn Roe v. Wade. So what was she saying today?
I look at her question is along the same line. Even though she did vote to overturn Roe v. Wade, her question and her line of question, even though she didn't give full support to it, was how do you reconcile the fact that in any other argument, if we're talking about speech, if we're talking about workers' compensation or workers' rights, federal law would supersede. It would preempt any state law that's enacted. And her questioning was, I am not comfortable with saying that this is allowed to supersede federal law. Please explain. So her question was asking him in a helpful manner more than Sotomayor's, which was more attacking, more like, you are wrong, your argument is wrong, this doesn't even make sense. Basically, she wants to know, how did we get here today? Barrett was a little bit different. She was saying, please explain to me how you get there. Still wanting him to get to that point of how you can show that, which I still could not follow the argument while listening as well. Alito was 100% sold before argument started. But I think the rest of the justices really wanted Idaho to walk them through How do you reconcile the differences, which normally would not even be a question at controversy?
So we got a little bit of a snippet of how some of these justices are going to maybe decide, but when will that decision come down?
In June, I anticipate, like most of these things, you'll get 4 to 5 months of them thinking about it. And so June is when they say. I probably would anticipate a little bit later. They say June, but, you know, they already know where they lean when they walk in the door, right? But today's argument at least tipped Idaho's hat to what they believe. This case, if I can say as we end, it's about when they ask the question, would abortion be allowed if the person's organs were deteriorating? And he said, you know what? Under Idaho law, it would not. And that was a problem that even with some of the conservative justices, they were confused on how, because this law says they have to do some action. The federal law does. So.
Yeah. Some fiery actions, and we'll see when that decision comes down. Kali, thanks.